Welcome everybody to my first first draft league I'm taking serious in over a year, outside of my own CBL, which has also been dormant for a while, but don't worry, I'll be starting up soon again. And that is the HPA, the Hamster Pokemon Association, started up recently by my good friend YellowDrako. Now then, since it's been a while, one thing I wanted to emphasize with this draft is mons that are simple enough for me to figure out how to use if I haven't used them before, since it's been a while since I actually played Draft League, and as well as mons I'm very familiar with and have used to decent success in the past. This is a 110 point draft, so like 19 points, 18 points, 17, etc. And we had 110 points total. Now then, my first pick for 17 points was the first part of, in my opinion, a pretty goated, awesome offensive core, and that's Mega Lopunny. My favorite megas, and the megas I find most satisfying to use, are the cleaner megas, not the setup sweepers, not the bulky walls like Mega Venusaur, for example, not the jack of all trades like, I don't know, Mega Altaria, but straight up cleaners. They come in late game after everything's worn out and just get 4 kills. I like those. My favorite mega is probably Mega Sharpedo, for example. Mega Beedrill and Mega Lop are also kind of cool, and I got Mega Lop for 17 points, which I believe to be the best of this Mega archetype. A few things to note between Gen 7 and Gen 8 is Scrappy got buffed to no longer be affected by Intimidate. This buff makes no sense, and I will gladly take it. Scrappy did not need buffs, and out of all the buffs, and being immune to Intimidate is the last one I would have chosen if I was GameFreak, but that works very well to me. Now then. Whoops. Previously, last time I used Mega Lop, one issue I often found was wanting to get a free switch into my Psychic types, that way I can more abuse the mods that tend to switch into Lopunny and set up on them. And the problem with that is that if I misread the opponent, then I just did no damage with Dry Pass, and my incoming mon would just take damage to achieve nothing. Now, I get U-Turn, which completely solves this issue. It says it's illegal, but don't worry, in the format we're playing as, DLC moves are allowed. And unless I'm mistaken, I'll check after the video, and if I'm wrong, there'll be a correction. U-Turn is one of Lopunny's DLC moves. Another one of which, if I'm not mistaken, is Close Combat. I no longer have to use High Jump Kick as my main super strong fighting move. This mon gets such great fighting moves, but now that I no longer have to rely on High Jump Kick as my main wall, breaker fighting move, that's pretty amazing. I like that. This mon is going to do so well. And now that it has U-Turn, I think it goes very well with the next mon, which I got for 16 points, Hydreigon. This mon got insanely buffed this gen. There's Dragon Dance, Nasty Plot. I think it gets some other moves, other setup moves as well, but I don't remember what they are off the top of my head. Point is, this mon got some pretty good stuff from Gen 8. Just these 2 moves alone make it such a good wall breaker and or sweeping threat. And honestly, I'm so excited to use this. Lop Hydro turning is going to be insane. And now, the next is quite possibly my favorite mon to use with Mega Lopunny, which I got for a total of 13 points, Reuniclus. This mon, with Magic Guard, it can, well, let's talk about Regenerator first, since that's the simple one. It just makes a nice, good AV pivot with a generator. There's far better AV pivots, but this Reuniclus can do it well with Regenerator and its high HP and offenses. The real star of the show is Magic Guard. Not only does it let this mod take Willows that are aimed at Mega Lop relatively easy, it can also be used as a way to more super easily set up on a lot of the mods that Mega Lopunny struggles with. especially bulky psychic types, like think for example Cresselia, or Mew to an extent. Like non-SD Mew or non-setup Mew struggles a lot to get through these two mons. Overall though, Reuniclus is a really solid mon. I guess it gets knocked, which I might use to an extent, but overall I don't expect it to be a super big deal. Now that I'm looking at it, my team could also make, a couple of my mons could make some pretty good Trick Room use, but I think that's going to be too situational. Overall, just solid mon, goes insanely well with Lop, especially now that I got U-Turn. Now on to the next mon, a personal favorite of mine when it comes to the realm of water types, poison types, and just in general, Tentacruel. All three of these abilities are not particularly good, but in the situations where they are good, they're amazing. 100 speed tier, a pretty important speed tier to hit, just because that single speed tier just means that pretty much every other 100 speed tier offensive mon struggles a lot, because they want to outspeed. But with this speed tier, a defensive mon like Tentacruel can force them to run max speed and not put any stats anywhere else. And from my experience, Tentacruel doesn't really need its other stats much, because you're either running offensive on offensive specs, or like a mixed wall, in which case you can freely put a lot of points into defense and HP regardless, because its special defense is so high. Also, in terms of move pool, not only does it gives me more ways of handling setup sweepers, another usable knockoff user, Rapid Spin, which now boosts speed, so I can now handle like some Scarfers. Like after a Rapid Spin, I outspeed a Scarf Tapu Lele, for example. Reflect type is pretty poggers depending on the matchup. Scald and Sludge Bomb are always useful. Toxic Spikes goes insanely well with my team, especially Reuniclus. Reuniclus loves that. Acid Sprays is an easy way to make up for its lack of offensive presence on the more defensive set. Overall, solid mon. I've used it to death. And after a rude and honestly improbable interruption, we are back for the next mon, which I got for 10 points like Tentacruel. It's the first two parts of my Fire, Water, Grass core, as well as the second part of the Fairy Dragon Steel. We have Whimsicott. Now then, in terms, like, I have never used this mon before, I don't think, but I have faced it a lot, so I kind of get the gist of what it's about. Like, even with that 77 special attack, a spec set can be kind of scary with Moonblast spam. Prankster is insane for like Sub-Leech Seed, Memento to get in my more frail offensive mon, maybe some setup sweepers. It's not Thunderwave, but I do have Priority Paralysis. Nature Power is fucking insane in certain matchups. Hurricane is pretty nice for hitting grass types, especially since Hidden Power isn't allowed. I should probably mention, since this is like following like Gen 8 with like Megas, as well as a lot of, basically it's National Dex, DLC, Legacy. So pretty much everything exists in this format, except for like Hidden Power, Pursuit, basically the stuff that just got deleted entirely from the game. Strangely, even though we have Megas, we don't have Z moves, but I don't consider that big a deal. Like, I would like the Z moves, but overall, not that bad. More U-turns, some taunts. Prankster mons, I feel, tend to love the usually useless move section, so I can probably find some heat here. Like Priority Sleep, for example. Overall, just a solid mon. Fills a pretty useful spot in terms of my speed tiers, and I'm looking forward to using it. Now, didn't even notice at this point, my points have been not about average for what you'd expect from point throughout the first half of the draft. Nothing like too crazy. My highest point mon on the entire team is is Mega Lop. However, due to some pretty good low tiers I picked later on, I was also able to get some other expensive stuff around the middle of the draft that I'm honestly surprised lasted this long. Let's start with, for 13 points, Skarmory. Now then, I have not used this Mon since my first ever draft league in June of 2017 was when that league started, I believe, maybe July. And although it has a bit more competition now in the form of Celesteela and Corviknight for the coveted steel flying typing, it is still insane. Not as good as the other two, but still one of the best. It's a usable attack, usable special bulk, depending on the matchup. What really shines is that high physical defense of 416 and these things. Like, obviously I wouldn't want all four on the same moveset. These are so good for it. It allows it to do so much. It also gets a lot of other support moves like Toxic Taunt, Tailwind. I can run an SD weak armor set if I wanted to meme on my opponent. It doesn't actually get pursued because like hidden powers, that's been Thanos'd. But overall, this solid Mon, I can pretty easily get some mileage out of it. Iron Head for fairy types. Sturdy, just to piss off electric types. And speaking of electric types that would normally be pissed at Skarmory's, and it's sturdy, Raikou. And this honkin' beast is, I love this thing. I love it so much. I don't know if hidden abilities are allowed. I'm pretty sure they're not. I'll have to ask later, but I'm never going to use Inner Focus anyways. The only Mon I would use Inner Focus for is Mega Lop, which I have myself. Occupies the same general speed tier as Whimsicott, so in that regard it doesn't do me much, but it does give me a large special attacking offensive presence. Like, sure, I have Hydreigon, but that's unfortunate. The fact that it doesn't break 100 speed tier mark means I'm often going to be running Scarf or some other speed boosting item, or maybe just raw spec. The point is, I'm often not going to be outspeeding stuff and getting the power at once. I'm not going to get both unless I set up first. Reuniclus is bulky and it has that raw special attack, but it's nowhere near fast. This gives me a fast special attacker that can just thunderbolt shit. Thanks to legacy moves being allowed, I have access to Volt Switch, Calm Mind, all this good stuff. Oh, Water Ball's actually in the useful moves section. What do you know? Interesting. I love like a sub-call mindset personally. The point is, this is a strong nuke with decent coverage. Something not many electric types have this gen because so many electric types relied on hidden power for this coverage. Like Jolteon actually sucks this gen, despite being so good last time. But it's just a fast, strong, special nuke that can set up if it wants to, be bulky if I want to. Just exactly what I need it to be. Now then, at this point, my points are getting a bit low, but luckily I did not get sniped once, and the plan I had, with some help from Dawn Midst and to a lesser extent Ducksuck when forming the plan, didn't really need much for points beyond this point, because I got some pretty good stuff for lower points that, even with all this good stuff I have so far, has reasons to come in various matchups despite being on the lower end spectrum. For example, we have Golurk, another Mon I've used pretty well in PBN. I think I might unprivate some of my draft league videos. I think PBN is one of the leagues I've uploaded before, although not much of. But between Body Press and Close Combat, it's already good. The fighting moveset just got even better. Stab Earthquake is always nice. Rocks. I've made some pretty good use of the usually useless moves before. I won't say much in terms of my tech just because spoilers. Don't want to reveal too much to the opponents. But overall, just solid Mon, great offensive move pool. just enough of both stats to where, even though it's primarily an offensive mon with like Iron Fist and No Guard, like No Guard Dynamic Punch for example, is pretty fucking insane, or just Iron Fist stuff in general. But even with that attack stat just high enough to where with no investment in my attack, I still hit pretty hard and can like invest in a pretty good like mixed. This thing is deceptively bulky at times. 89, 80, 80 is pretty decent with investment. But overall, it also stops volt switches, which is something I really wanted. Gives me something to block rapid spin. And overall, just great. Next mod is something that in a UCL style or like a GPA tiers 1 through 5 style, I would never consider drafting. But in this style, I think it's absolutely amazing due to how cheap it is. Clefairy for 2 points. Another Magic Guard mon. Provides me I wanted a secondary fairy type because just his Whimsicott just isn't a bulky enough in my opinion. And to be honest, I'm not going to be running that thing bulky every week anyways. But with Eviolite, this thing does what I want it to do. And I already have a usable knock switch in the form of Megalop once it evolves. But overall, this thing is basically just a mini Clefairy. Gives me a nice Claire, gives me a nice bush, gives me some nice bullshit. More hazards, more just everything kind of. And for 2 points, this is an absolute steal, in my opinion. I think this could go for 3 points, but for 2 points, I'm definitely going to take that. And for our next mon, we have something I tried out in a couple leagues earlier in the generation, but that was only because I got sniped of everything else I wanted and didn't really have much of a choice. But I feel like it fits this team fantastically. Rounds out probably the hardest speed tier for me to fill on this team, which is in between the next mon and Skarmory, and that is Vanillux for 6 points. And that's Vanillux. In all seriousness though, Snow Warning with 2 Magic Guard mons, as well as several mons that don't care as much about their health, like Mega Lopunny. I do feel like Snow Warning is more of a benefit than a detriment to my team, even without Veil. And Veil makes mons like Megalop insane. Like, normally Megalop's pretty frail, but 94, 96 defenses, yeah, that's a lot under Veil. A few offensive moves it does get cover exactly what I want. Obviously, Weather Ball is a pretty strong ice move, although in Hail I might as well just use Blizzard, Autonomize. It also could use weak armor sets. I've definitely had a good time with this mon before, although I have found it underwhelming, but for 6 points, I definitely think that's perfect for it. In the next mon, once again like Clefairy, it's 2 points. And if you've noticed on the video off to the side, I've been having this spreadsheet basically show the status of my team up to this point. Unfortunately, the spreadsheet I'm using doesn't actually recognize the existence of my next mon, and that is Reboot. So I'm just going to use Cinderace in that spot instead. And hope to God that does the job. But overall, Libero. This is basically Fire-type Frogadier. With similarly strong mons in this 80 range, I've made pretty big dents without Libero giving me basically stabbed all my coverage. But it's like this time, I actually have that. Like, this thing will hit deceptively hard. It'll never one-shot anything, but I think it'll two-shot a lot, which is really good for a 2-point mon. And also, to be honest, with a lot of other mons, I wouldn't mind. I mean, I would be pretty upset if I ended up with like a 2-pointer, like with a lot of other types. With Fire, I don't really mind so much, because Fire is not like a super important one anyways. Like, if my Dragon was a 2-pointer, I would not be making videos on this league. I just wouldn't. Low tier dragons suck, especially in current gen. You have to go back to like Gen 5, maybe even 4 for them to be worth it in Draft League. And although it is kind of odd that I do have 2 like NFE mons, so you'd think I'd be worried about like knockoff spam, only one of which really cares about is Eviolite, because realistically speaking, I'm never running Eviolite on this unless I decide to go fucking crazy. It's always gonna be like offensive items like Banders or Life Orb or like Scarf for extra speed or heavy boots. Shit like that, basically. If I use Eviolite, it's gonna be for something super situational, and at that point I'm stretching so much in my ability to counter prep that a matchup is probably so bad I've lost anyways. But overall, this feels this is just perfect to go with Vanillux speed tier. Like pretty much everything between these two is covered, which is a nice thing about Vanillux. And for those of you who have been keeping track, this means I have 1 more point left. So what did I get? I should probably mention, this is a battle of this is divided into 2 divisions, Pico Division and the Dedenne Division. And for a total of Robin points, I got Dedenne, the mascot of the division. Listen, I'm never going to use this probably, but every team needs a happy little mascot to just cheer you up. I don't know why I picked Celebrate to reference that when it's never gonna it can't use Celebrate, but you know what? I can pretend. Like honestly, if you're playing custom game, this is the ideal moveset for Dedenne. It's a happy little mascot. Might as well emphasize that. Overall, this is a draft for the Dallas Darkrais in the inaugural season of HPA, Hamster Pokemon Association. I feel like I could actually go pretty far with this team, even though I'm way out of practice when it comes to things like prep and actually battling. But this is a very me sort of team. I can make good use of this. I can push it as far as I want to. And overall, I have high hopes. See y'all next time for a team builder for my week 1 match of HPA against Frito and San Jose Sharpedos. And oh my god, that's gonna be a good match. See y'all then.